Bridezilla tries to scam bridesmaids. Story shared by bridesmaid's friend on Reddit. Several years ago, a friend of mine asked me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding. There were 6 of us plus the maid of honor, emoji, so 7 total. The bride had picked out her dress already, one for the emoji, and one for the bridesmaids. The dress itself was lovely but a bit expensive at $400 each, since 2 of us were still in college and the rest had recently graduated. I was one of the 2 still in college, so money was super tight. Anyhow, the bride asked the MOH to coordinate with all of us for fittings/alterations and such as one of her duties. The MOH decided she would pay for all of the dresses on her credit card because she wanted the air miles and we would pay her back directly. None of us minded, especially since she was going to let us pay her back in installments if we needed. I definitely needed. I wasn't able to go with everyone to pick up the dresses because finals week and planned to go by myself the following weekend. No big deal. The MOH said she would pay for mine on the group trip, but to call her if there were any issues with the dress itself and she would handle it. I get there and the dress fits perfectly. The shop owner scoots off while I'm changing back into my street clothes, since she has another client coming in but confirms we're all set. As I'm walking out the door, another person working there yells out, "Hey, that will be $200. I was stunned and totally mortified. I apologized and explained how I thought the MOH had paid for it the weekend before. The shop owner comes running over to defuse the situation and confirmed the dress was paid for already. I turned to walk out and suddenly realized she said $200 and not $400. Long story short, the dress was only $200. When I confronted the MOH about it, she spilled the beans. Apparently, the bride and MOH plotted together to charge us double to help pay for the bride's dress. I let the rest of the bridesmaids know and 4 of us dropped out of the wedding immediately. Updated. These are chat transcripts. Friend who posted the story to Reddit gets update from bridesmaid and shares it on Reddit. The wedding took place several years ago, almost a full 10 now, and I hadn't spoken to the bride and MOH since. The only other people I knew were the 3 other bridesmaids that dropped out with me. The 2 other bridesmaids were cousins of the bride, and they agreed to continue on as a favor to their mom, bride's aunt, to avoid family drama. More on them in a bit. Fast forward to now. I got an email from the MOH who wanted to apologize again. She wasn't making excuses for her behavior. On the contrary, she acknowledged her wrongdoing, and said she still felt incapable of saying no to the bride/her friend. She was pretty disgusted with herself and relieved when I confronted her. To her credit, she said as much back then. They'd been friends forever and it took her a really long time to see behind the mask, and how toxic the friendship had always been and the part she played in it. For what it's worth, I believe her. A quick flashback, I hadn't yet paid for the dress when the truth came out, so I just turned it over to the MOH. The 3 other bridesmaids got their money back immediately without any hassle. The MOH apologized like crazy at the time to all of us, but we just wrote her, the bride, and the whole situation off. None of us ever heard from the bride. No apologies, no nothing. Turns out, the bride never reimbursed the MOH for anything. Initially, the bride said she would repay her, but after the wedding, everything changed. She said if the MOH hadn't spilled the beans, she wouldn't be out all the money and it's the price paid for being a disloyal friend. And the MOH wasn't just out the $200 x 6 bridesmaids' dresses, the bride had also convinced the MOH to charge the wedding dress. Because it would be easier for the bride to pay off the balance at the end. When the MOH threatened to take the bride to court, the bride said her cousins, the 2 bridesmaids, would say the MOH came up with the whole scheme and have her arrested for fraud. She found out years later the cousins never agreed to such a thing, and would have been willing to go to court and say the exact opposite. They were disgusted by the whole situation too and wanted to drop out, but their mother, bride's aunt, pushed them to keep appearances up for the family. They even told the MOH the replacement bridesmaids paid the bride $200 cash for each dress, none of which made it to the MOH. I almost forgot the funny part. The bride told her FH, future husband, the 4 of us dropped out because we were jealous of her. So her whole family plus the MOH knew the truth, but not the FH nor anyone in his family had any clue. And there was also much more behind the scenes the MOH was privy to that we didn't see and wouldn't anyway after we dropped out. Apparently, the bride manipulated her entire family into paying for most of the wedding and the honeymoon. The dresses were supposed to be her one and only responsibility, and likewise, the FH was responsible for the suits. That's not what she had told us at the time and even bragged her FH was paying for everything. The bride also tried to manipulate her future in-laws into buying her a new car as a wedding present. They didn't, and in revenge, she interrupted the mother and son dance just moments after it started. Looked at the MOH and said, "Watch this," and then waltzed out onto the floor and basically shoved her new MIL out of the way. She also accused the reception wait staff of trying to ruin the photos by getting in the way of the photographer as they were serving the guests. Even after the photographer confirmed they were not in any of the shots, she still insisted they would have to personally reimburse her, even though she never paid for anything in the first place. Oh, it gets worse. At the brunch the morning after, the MOH said the bride gave a short toast to herself and didn't thank anyone and barely acknowledged her new husband. As for the MOH, she says she tried to collect the money she was owed but eventually accepted it was gone and cut off all ties. Even still, the bride would reach out every couple of months to ask if she was done being such a b yet. When the MOH blocked her number, the bride spread rumors about the MOH and her fiancé P the time, now husband, saying that he was an illegal, apologies, I loathe that word and people who use it, your group and the ring shaming group are the only two shaming groups that shut it down. If it's not okay even in this context, please let me edit the post. I don't want to get banned and have to go back to the racist wedding shaming groups, marrying her only for the green card, and claim they use government assistance to pay for the wedding. Meanwhile, he already had become an American citizen long before they met, and was / is a before they met and was / is a ridiculously successful software engineer who paid for the entire wedding himself, and took not only his immediate family but hers too to Hawaii for the honeymoon. The bride was just jealous the MOH had everything she wanted. As for the bride, she's on divorce number 2 already, and estranged from her entire family because they got tired of her manipulating and using them too. I think that's everything she shared with me. I'll reach out if I remember anything else.